The stars burned cold in the void as the Vorthak warfleet moved like death itself through space. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the enemy vessels on his screen. Each one was massive beyond belief, stretching longer than most space stations he had ever seen. The largest ship in their fleet was bigger than some moons. Dae-ho had been fighting in space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Vorthak ships moved with purpose and deadly grace. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light itself. Strange organic growths covered their surfaces like living armor. These were not just machines of war. They were living creatures built for one thing only: to destroy everything in their path. His communications officer, Kim So-ra, turned from her station. Her face was pale with worry. "Captain, I am getting more reports from the outer colonies. The Altarians lasted only 4 hours before they surrendered. The Zephyrians did not even try to fight back." Commander Park Ji-woo stood beside the captain's chair. He had been Dae-ho's friend since their academy days. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed concern. "The pattern is always the same. The Vorthak arrive in overwhelming numbers. They demand surrender. If refused, they attack with weapons that cut through any defense like it was paper. No one has ever lasted more than 3 days." Dae-ho nodded slowly. He had read all the reports. The Vorthak Empire had conquered over 200 worlds in the last 50 years. Every species they encountered was either destroyed or forced into slavery. Their technology was beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Their ships could repair themselves. Their weapons could tear apart molecular bonds. Their shields could deflect any energy beam. "Captain," Kim So-ra called out again, "I am receiving a distress signal from New Sol Colony. It is very weak, but I can make out the message. The Vorthak fleet is heading their way." New Sol was home to 12 million humans. It was one of their newest colonies, but also one of their most important. The planet had rich mining deposits and advanced manufacturing facilities. More importantly, it was where many families had built new lives after leaving Earth. Admiral Kang Woo-jin's face appeared on the main screen. The old admiral looked tired. His uniform was wrinkled as if he had not slept in days. "Captain Lee, I know you are receiving the same reports we are. The Vorthak fleet is moving toward New Sol. We estimate they will arrive in 18 hours. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Dae-ho asked. "All available ships are being sent to New Sol. We will make our stand there. I know the odds are against us, but we cannot let them take our people without a fight." Park Ji-woo stepped forward. "Admiral, our intelligence shows that the Vorthak fleet heading to New Sol contains at least 50 capital ships. The largest one is their flagship called the World Ender. It is over 15 kilometers long. We have only 12 ships that can reach New Sol in time." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. "I understand the numbers, Commander, but sometimes a man must do what is right even when he cannot win. Captain Lee, I want your ship to reach New Sol first. Buy us time until the rest of the fleet arrives." Dae-ho felt his stomach tighten. The Indomitable Spirit was a good ship, but it was only 800 meters long. Against the massive Vorthak vessels, it would be like a small bird fighting a dragon. But he knew his duty. "Understood, Admiral. We will be there." The screen went dark. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Dae-ho looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had families back home. They had dreams and hopes for the future. Now they might die defending a colony most of them had never even visited. "Captain," their engineer Yoon Tae-min called from his station, "I have been working on modifications to our shield array. The reports about Vorthak weapons show they use plasma-based energy. Our electromagnetic countermeasures might be more effective than previous species realized." "Explain," Dae-ho said. "Most species rely on pure energy shields or molecular armor, but our shields work differently. They create electromagnetic fields that can redirect plasma streams. If my calculations are correct, we might be able to survive their initial attacks long enough to learn more about their weaknesses." Park Ji-woo looked skeptical. "That is a big if, Tae-min. The Altarian shields were considered the best in the galaxy. The Vorthak destroyed their entire fleet in minutes. The Altarians used different technology," Yoon Tae-min replied. "Their shields tried to absorb energy. Ours redirect it. It might make all the difference. Dr. Han Ye-jin looked up from her research station. She was their military strategist, and one of the smartest people Daeho had ever met. I have been studying the Vorthak attack patterns. They always use the same tactics. Overwhelming force applied quickly to break enemy morale. They expect their opponents to panic and make mistakes. What do you suggest? Daeho asked. We do the opposite of what they expect. We stay calm. We stay focused. We make them adapt to us instead of us adapting to them. Kim So-ra turned from her communications station again. Captain, I am intercepting Vorthak transmissions. Their language is strange, but I am beginning to understand some of it. They refer to us as the small pink ones. They seem to think we will be easy to defeat. Let them think that, Daeho said. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage. The ship shuddered slightly as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. The journey to New Seoul would take 16 hours at maximum speed. That would give them 2 hours to prepare before the Vorthak arrived. Park Ji-woo moved closer to the captain's chair. Daeho, we have been friends for a long time. I need to ask you something. Do you really think we can survive this? Daeho looked at his old friend. I do not know if we can win, Ji-woo, but I know we have to try. Those people on New Seoul are counting on us. If we run now, who will stand up to the Vorthak next time? The other species tried to fight, they all failed. The other species fought the way they always fought. Maybe that is why they failed. Maybe we need to fight differently. Dr. Han Ye-jin looked up from her research again. Captain, I have found something interesting in the reports. The Vorthak ships seem to be partially alive. They have organic components mixed with mechanical ones. That might explain why they can repair themselves so quickly. What does that mean for us? Park Ji-woo asked. It means they might have weaknesses that pure mechanical ships do not have. Living things can be hurt in ways that machines cannot. Engineer Yoon Tae-min nodded. If they are partially organic, they might be vulnerable to certain types of interference. Electromagnetic pulses that would not affect normal ships might disrupt their biological systems. Daeho felt a small spark of hope. Keep working on that. Find every weakness you can. The hours passed slowly as they traveled through space toward New Seoul. The crew worked frantically to prepare for the coming battle. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Shield generators were fine-tuned. Emergency procedures were reviewed. Kim So-ra continued to monitor Vorthak communications. Captain, their fleet commander is someone called Overlord Thexmore. He seems to be very confident about the coming battle. He is telling his ships that this will be another easy victory. Good, Daeho said. Overconfident enemies make mistakes. As they approached New Seoul, the crew gathered on the bridge. Through the main window they could see the planet in the distance. It looked peaceful and beautiful. Cities sparkled like jewels on the surface. Ships moved in orderly patterns around. Orbital station's captain, the navigation officer called out. We are receiving a message from New Seoul Traffic Control. They want to know our intentions. Tell them we are here to defend them, Daeho replied. They are asking if we need assistance. They want to know how many ships are in our fleet. Daeho was quiet for a moment. Tell them we are enough. The indomitable spirit took position between New Seoul and the direction the Vorthak fleet would come from. They were alone in the darkness of space. One small ship against an empire that had never known defeat. Contact Admiral Kang, Daeho ordered. Tell him we are in position. The Admiral's face appeared on screen again. Captain, our other ships are still hours away. Are you sure you can hold them until we arrive? We will find a way, Admiral. Captain. Lee, I want you to know that what you are doing today will be remembered. Win or lose, you are making a stand that needed to be made. The screen went dark. Daeho looked around at his crew one more time. They looked scared but determined. They were ready to do their duty. All stations report ready, Captain, Park Ji-woo said. Then we wait, Daeho replied. In the distance, space began to shimmer as something very large prepared to drop out of faster-than-light travel. Space twisted and tore as the Vorthak fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Massive ships appeared one after another, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Their dark hulls seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood perfectly still on his bridge as he watched the enemy fleet take formation. He counted 57 ships in total. The smallest was twice the size of his own vessel. The largest was the World Ender, a monster that stretched across space like a floating city of death. "Captain," Kim So-ra called from her communication station. "They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is simple: surrender now or be destroyed." "Any response?" Park Ji-woo asked. Dae-ho moved to his captain's chair and sat down. Slowly, he activated the ship's communication system. His voice was calm and steady as he spoke. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Human Defense Force ship Indomitable Spirit. You will not pass." The bridge was completely silent. Every member of his crew stared at him. They all knew what those words meant. There would be no negotiation, no retreat, no surrender. Kim So-ra looked at her instruments with surprise. "Captain, they are responding." The voice sounds amused. A new voice filled the bridge. It was deep and strange, speaking human language, with difficulty. "Small human captain, I am Overlord Thexmore of the Vorthak Empire. Your words are brave but foolish. We have destroyed species far more powerful than yours. You have one small ship. We have a fleet that has never known defeat." Dae-ho activated his communications again. "You will not pass." There was a long pause. Then Overlord Thexmore spoke again, and this time he did not sound amused. "Very well, human. You have chosen your fate. World Ender, destroy this insect." The massive Vorthak flagship began to turn toward the Indomitable Spirit. Weapon ports along its hull started to glow with deadly energy. These were the same weapons that had melted entire fleets in minutes. "All hands, prepare for incoming fire," Park Ji-woo announced over the ship's communication system. Engineer Yoon Tae-min worked frantically at his station. "Captain, I am redirecting all available power to the electromagnetic countermeasures. Shield generators are at maximum output. I hope this works." Dr. Han Ye-jin looked up from her research station. "Captain, I have been analyzing their weapon signatures. They are definitely plasma-based, but the energy levels are beyond anything we have seen before." The World Ender's main guns fired. Streams of superheated plasma screamed across space toward the small human ship. The energy was so intense it lit up the darkness like artificial suns. These beams had destroyed entire space stations in seconds. They had turned enemy ships into clouds of vapor. The crew of the Indomitable Spirit braced for death. The plasma streams hit their shields and something impossible happened. Instead of tearing through the defenses like they had with every other species, the beams were redirected. The electromagnetic fields around the human ship bent the plasma away from the hull. The energy that should have destroyed them was scattered harmlessly into space. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "Damage report," Dae-ho finally called out. Yoon Tae-min stared at his instruments in disbelief. "Captain, shields are holding at 94% capacity. Hull integrity is at 100%. We are completely undamaged." The silence on the bridge was broken by nervous laughter from several crew members. They were still alive. The impossible had happened. "Captain," Kim So-ra said in a shaky voice, "I am intercepting Vorthak communications. They seem very confused. I think this is the first time their main weapons have failed to destroy a target." Park Ji-woo moved to stand beside the captain's chair. "Dae-ho, I cannot believe what just happened. How did we survive that?" "Our electromagnetic countermeasures work differently than other species' defenses," Yoon Tae-min explained, his voice filled with excitement. "Instead of trying to absorb or block the plasma, we redirect it. The Vorthak weapons are incredibly powerful, but they rely on direct hits to be effective." Dr. Han Ye-jin was working quickly at her station. "Captain, I am detecting increased activity throughout their fleet. I think they are preparing for a much larger attack." On the main screen, they could see the other Vorthak ships moving into attack positions. Weapon ports were opening along dozens of hulls. The enemy was no longer treating this as a simple execution. "All ships, target the human vessel," came Overlord Thexmore's voice over the communications channel. "Full bombardment. Leave nothing but atoms." The space around New Sol lit up like a star as 47 Vorthak ships opened fire at the same time. Hundreds of plasma beams converged on the position of the indomitable spirit. The amount of energy being directed at them could have destroyed a small moon. "This is it," Park Ji-woo whispered. The massive bombardment hit their shields and was redirected in every direction. Space became a light show as streams of deadly energy were bent away from the human ship. Some beams were sent back toward the Vorthak fleet. Others were scattered into empty space. When the light finally faded, the indomitable spirit hung in space completely undamaged. The crew erupted in cheers. They had survived the combined firepower of nearly 50 enemy ships. They had done something that no other species in the galaxy had ever accomplished. "Captain," Yoon Tae-min called out over the celebration, "our shields are holding at 87%. The system is working better than I ever hoped, but I do not think we can take many more attacks like that one." Daeho nodded. "Understood. What about weapons? Can we hurt them?" Dr. Han Ye-jin looked up from her analysis. "Their shields appear to be organic in nature. They might be vulnerable to different types of attacks than they are used to defending against." "Captain," Kim So-ra interrupted, "Overlord Thexmore is broadcasting again. He sounds very angry." The alien voice filled the bridge once more, but this time it was full of rage and confusion. "What are you? How are you doing this? No species has ever withstood our weapons." Daeho activated his communications. "We are humans, and you will not pass. This is impossible. You are just one ship. We are the Vorthak Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. You have never faced humans before." There was a long pause. When Overlord Thexmore spoke again, his voice was different. For the first time, there was uncertainty in it. "What do you want, humans? We want you to leave this system and never return. That is not possible. The Empire does not retreat. Then we have nothing more to discuss." The communication ended. On the main screen, they could see frantic activity throughout the Vorthak fleet. Ships were moving into new formations. Different types of weapons were being brought online. Park Ji-woo studied the tactical display. "Captain, they are changing their strategy. I think they are going to try different types of attacks." Dr. Han Ye-jin looked concerned. "Our shields work well against plasma weapons, but if they use other types of energy, we might not be so lucky." "We will face whatever they send at us," Daeho replied. Engineer Yoon Tae-min was working on his systems again. "Captain, I might be able to modify our weapon systems to be more effective against their organic shields. It will take some time." Pilot Officer Choi Min-ho stepped forward. He was the leader of their small fighter squadron. "Captain, request permission to launch fighters. If they send small attack craft, we might be able to help defend the ship." Daeho considered this. Their 12 fighters would be vastly outnumbered by anything the Vorthak could send, but they might provide a distraction. Permission granted. "But stay close to the ship." As the fighters launched, Kim So-ra picked up new communications from the Vorthak fleet. "Captain, they are deploying what they call swarm pods. I count over 3,000 small craft launching from their ships." Park Ji-woo studied his tactical screen with worry. "Captain, those are not just fighters. They are some kind of autonomous attack drones. Our intelligence reports say they move in perfect coordination. The swarm of enemy craft spread out like a living cloud. Each individual pod was small, but together they formed a mass that could surround and overwhelm any target." This was how the Vorthak had destroyed the fighter squadrons of every species they had encountered. "Min-ho, are you seeing this?" Daeho called to his fighter squadron leader. "Yes, Captain, we are heavily outnumbered, but we have some advantages. These drones seem to move in predictable patterns. They rely on coordination rather than individual skill. Then do not fight them the way they expect to be fought." "Understood, Captain." The human fighters broke formation and scattered in different directions. Instead of trying to match the enemy's coordinated attack, each pilot began using individual tactics. They used the indomitable spirit's defensive systems as cover, while executing maneuvers that the enemy drones could not predict. The Vorthak swarm had been programmed to fight against organized resistance. They expected enemy fighters to work together in formations. When faced with 12 pilots who each fought differently, their coordination began to break down. Choi Min-ho's voice came over the communications. "Captain, these drones are having trouble adapting to our individual fighting styles. They keep trying to surround us, but we are not staying in one place long enough." Dr. Han Ye-jin watched the battle on her screens with fascination. "Captain, the space around New Seoul had become a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 3,000 Vorthak swarm pods moved in complex patterns, trying to overwhelm 12 human fighters who refused to fight by any known rules of combat. Each human pilot flew as if they were dancing to music only they could hear. Captain Lee Dae-ho watched from his bridge as Pilot Officer Choi Min-ho led his fighters in a battle that should have been impossible to win. The Vorthak drones moved like a single living thing, flowing and shifting in perfect coordination. But the human fighters moved like individuals, each one unpredictable and unique. "Captain," Dr. Han Ye-jin called from her research station. "I am seeing something very interesting. The Vorthak drones communicate with each other constantly. They share information about targets and coordinate their attacks through a central network." "What does that mean for us?" Park Ji-woo asked. "If we could disrupt their communication network, their coordination would break down." Tech Sergeant Oh Da-bin looked up from her electronic warfare station. She was young but brilliant with computer systems. "Captain, I have been analyzing their communication frequencies. Their network is much more advanced than ours, but it has one weakness. It relies on organic neural pathways that might be vulnerable to specific types of interference." Commander Park Ji-woo moved closer to her station. "Can you hack into their system?" "Not exactly hack," Oh Da-bin replied. "But I might be able to introduce chaos into their network. Random signals that would make their drones receive conflicting orders." Dae-ho made his decision quickly. "Do it." Oh Da-bin's fingers moved rapidly over her controls. She began broadcasting carefully crafted signals toward the Vorthak swarm. The effects were not immediate, but slowly the perfect coordination of the enemy drones began to break down. "It is working," Choi Min-ho reported from his fighter. "Some of the drones are starting to attack each other. Others are flying into their own ships." On the main screen, they could see chaos spreading through the Vorthak formation. Drones that had been working together moments before were now colliding with each other. Some were firing on their own allies. The perfect swarm was becoming a confused mob. "Overlord." Thexmore's voice filled the bridge again, and this time he sounded genuinely frightened. "What are you doing to our ships? This is not possible." Dae-ho activated his communications. "You are learning what happens when you face humans in battle. Your species is small and weak. We have conquered worlds with billions of soldiers. Numbers do not matter if you cannot think for yourself." The truth of those words was being proven in the space around them. The Vorthak had built their entire military around overwhelming force and perfect coordination. When faced with enemies, who fought as individuals while working together, their system began to collapse. Engineer Yoon Taemin called out from his station. "Captain, I have finished modifying our weapons. Our plasma cannons should now be effective against their organic shielding. Target the nearest enemy ship and fire." The indomitable spirit's weapons struck a Vorthak cruiser that was 3 times their size. Instead of bouncing off the enemy shields, the modified plasma beams tore through the organic defenses and caused serious damage to the alien vessel. "Direct hit," Park Ji-woo reported with satisfaction. "Their shields are failing." Dr. Han Ye-jin was studying the results on her instruments. "Captain, I think I understand why our weapons worked. The Vorthak shields are designed to absorb specific types of energy, but our modifications changed the frequency of our plasma beams. Their organic defenses could not adapt quickly enough." More Vorthak ships began targeting the indomitable spirit directly. They had realized that this one small human vessel was the key to everything that was going wrong with their attack. If they could destroy it, the resistance would collapse. Incoming missiles, Park Ji-woo announced. Multiple types from multiple directions. The Vorthak were no longer relying on their standard plasma weapons. They were launching everything they had at the human ship. Fusion warheads, antimatter torpedoes, and weapons that used technologies humans had never seen before. All power to shields, Dae-ho ordered. The barrage hit them from every direction. The ship shook violently as different types of weapons tested their defenses. Some missiles were deflected by their electromagnetic shields. Others exploded against their hull armor. A few weapons got through and caused damage to non-critical systems. Hull breach on Deck 7, Yoon Tae-min reported. Sealing emergency bulkheads. Shield generators are down to 60% capacity. Marine Colonel Baek Hyun-woo appeared on the bridge. He was a tall man with scars on his face from previous battles. Captain, if they board us, my Marines are ready. Let us hope it does. Not come to that, Colonel. But even as he spoke, Dae-ho could see boarding pods launching from several Vorthak ships. The aliens were preparing to take his vessel by force. Captain, Kim Sora called out urgently. I am receiving a communication from Admiral Kang Woo-jin. The rest of our fleet is still 4 hours away. 4 hours might as well be 4 days. They were barely surviving now, and more Vorthak ships were still arriving. The enemy fleet had grown to over 70 vessels. The boarding pods struck their hull like metal rain. Each one carried dozens of Vorthak soldiers equipped with weapons, designed to kill any species they encountered. These were the troops that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Colonel Bayek, they are coming aboard, Dae-ho informed the Marine commander. My men are ready, Captain. We will show these aliens what humans can do in close combat. The sounds of battle echoed through the ship as Vorthak soldiers cut their way inside. They moved in perfect formation, just like their ships and drones. Each squad worked together with mechanical precision. But they had never faced human Marines. Before dot, Colonel Baek Hyun-woo led his soldiers in a defense that the aliens could not understand. Where the Vorthak moved in predictable patterns, the humans adapted to each situation. They used the ship's corridors and maintenance tunnels to appear where the enemy least expected them. Captain, Colonel Baek reported over his communication system. These aliens are physically stronger than us and their weapons are more advanced, but they fight like machines. They cannot adapt when we change our tactics. The battle inside the ship raged for over an hour. The Vorthak had superior numbers and equipment, but they could not deal with human unpredictability. Marines who should have been easily defeated kept finding new ways to outmaneuver their enemies. Meanwhile, on the bridge, O'Dobbin had been working to expand her electronic warfare attacks. Captain, I think I can do more than just disrupt their drone coordination. If I can access their main communication network, I might be able to affect their larger ships. What kind of effects? Dr. Han Ye-jin asked. Their ships use organic neural networks to coordinate their systems. If I can introduce the right kind of interference, I might be able to cause system failures throughout their fleet. Park Ji-woo looked concerned. That sounds dangerous. If you make a mistake, you might give them access to our systems instead. O'Dobbin nodded. It is risky. But Captain, we are running out of options. Our shields cannot take much more punishment. Dae-ho looked around his bridge. His crew was tired and scared, but they were still fighting. Outside, his fighters were still somehow holding off thousands of enemy drones. Inside his ship, his Marines were keeping the Vorthak boarding parties from taking control. Do it, he decided. O'Dobbin began her most ambitious attack yet. She sent carefully crafted signals deep into the Vorthak communication network. This time, she was not just causing confusion among the drones. She was trying to affect the neural pathways that controlled the enemy ships themselves. The results were immediate and spectacular. The World Ender, the massive Vorthak flagship, suddenly began firing on its own escort vessels. Other ships in the fleet started moving in random directions. Some began spinning out of control as their navigation systems failed. Captain, Kim Sora called out in amazement. The Vorthak fleet is in complete chaos. Ships are colliding with each other. Their formation is falling apart. Overlord Thexmore's voice came over the communication system again, but this time he sounded desperate. What have you done to us? Our ships are no longer responding to commands. We have shown you what it means to rely too heavily on group coordination, Dae-ho replied. When the network fails, everything fails. This is impossible. We are the Vorthak Empire. We do not lose battles. Today you are learning that there is always a first time for everything. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, since it began, the humans had the advantage. The Vorthak fleet was in disarray. Their perfect coordination had become their greatest weakness. Choi Min-ho's voice came over the communication system. Captain, with their coordination disrupted, we are able to take out their smaller craft much more easily. The drone swarm is breaking apart. Colonel Bike reported success as well. Captain, the boarding parties have stopped coming. The ones already aboard are confused and disorganized. We are pushing them back. But Dr. Han Ye-jin was studying her instruments with concern. Captain, I am detecting massive energy buildups in several of their largest ships. I think they are preparing to use weapons we have not seen before. What kind of weapons? I am not sure, but the energy signatures are enormous. The news of what was happening at New Seoul spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. For 50 years, every species had lived in fear of the Vorthak Empire. They were the unstoppable force that conquered everything in their path. But now, for the first time in their history, a single ship had stopped them. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on his damaged bridge and watched as more Vorthak ships arrived in the system. The enemy fleet now numbered over 90 vessels, but they were no longer the coordinated war machine they had been hours before. Many ships moved erratically, their organic neural networks still disrupted by Tech Sergeant Oh Da-bin's electronic attacks. Captain, Kim Sora reported from her communication station. I am intercepting messages from across the galaxy. The Altarians are talking about rebellion. The Zephyrians are refusing to send tribute to the Vorthak. Even species that surrendered years ago are starting to resist. Commander Park Ji-woo moved closer to the captain's chair. His uniform was torn and stained with smoke from the earlier battles. Dae-ho, we have done something incredible here, but I am worried about what comes next. The Vorthak will not accept this defeat easily. As if summoned by his words, space began to twist near the center of the enemy fleet. Something enormous was dropping out of faster-than-light travel. When it fully materialized, the crew of the Indomitable Spirit stared in shock. The new ship was twice the size of the World Ender. Its hull was covered with organic growths that pulsed with their own light. Strange tentacles moved along its surface like living cables. This was not just a warship. It was something alive and ancient and filled with rage. Captain? Dr. Han Ye-jin called out, her voice tight with fear. I am reading energy signatures I have never seen before. That ship is not just larger than the others. It is fundamentally different. Overlord Thexmore's voice filled the bridge, but it sounded different now. There was desperation in it, but also something else. Something dangerous. Humans, you have forced me to do something I have never done before. You have made me summon the Doom Harbinger, my personal vessel. It is the oldest ship in our fleet, and the most powerful. The massive new ship began moving toward the Indomitable Spirit. As it did, the other Vorthak vessels moved away from it, as if they were afraid of their own flagship. Captain, Engineer Yoon Tai-min warned, that ship is charging weapon systems that are far beyond anything we have faced before. I do not think our shields can handle what it is preparing to throw at us. Admiral Kang Woo-jin's face appeared on the main screen. The old admiral looked grim. Captain Lee, we are still 2 hours away from your position. Can you hold out that long? Dae-ho looked around his bridge. His crew had already done the impossible. They had stopped the unstoppable Vorthak Empire, but this new ship was something different, something that might be beyond their ability to survive. We will do our best, Admiral. Captain, I want you to know that what you have accomplished today has already changed the galaxy. Win or lose, you have shown every species that the Vorthak can be stopped. The communication ended just as the Doom Harbinger opened fire. The weapons that struck the Indomitable Spirit were unlike anything they had faced before. Instead of plasma beams, streams of pure energy tore through space toward them. These were not just weapons. They were forces of nature made into tools of war. The first blast overwhelmed their electromagnetic shields completely. The second tore through their hull armor like it was paper. The third caused explosions throughout the ship as critical systems failed. Hull breaches on multiple decks, Yoon Tae-min reported as alarms sounded throughout the ship. Shield generators are offline. Life support is failing on decks 4 through 7. Daeho felt the ship shudder around him as another blast struck them. They were dying slowly and there was nothing they could do to stop it. But then Dr. Han Ye-jin made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I have been analyzing the energy from their attacks. These weapons are not just technological. They are partially biological. The ship is actually in pain when it fires them. What do you mean? Park Ji-woo asked. The Doom Harbinger is not just a ship with organic components. It is a living creature that has been turned into a weapon. When it attacks us, it is hurting itself. Oh-da-bin looked up from her electronic warfare station. Captain, if it is truly alive, then it might be vulnerable to different types of attacks. Not just physical damage, but psychological warfare. Explain. Living creatures can experience fear, pain, and confusion in ways that machines cannot. If we can make that ship afraid, we might be able to stop it. It was a desperate idea, but they had no other options. The indomitable spirit could not survive many more attacks from the Doom Harbinger's weapons. What do you need? Daeho asked. Oh-da-bin worked quickly at her station. I need to access our ship's full communication array, not just for sending messages, but for broadcasting specific frequencies that might affect the creature's nervous system. Dr. Han Ye-jin joined her at the electronic warfare station. I can help. My research into Vorthak biology might give us clues about what frequencies would be most effective. As the two women worked together, the Doom Harbinger prepared for another attack. Its organic weapons began charging again, ready to deliver the killing blow to the human ship. But before it could fire, Oh-da-bin and Dr. Han Ye-jin unleashed their psychological attack. The frequencies they broadcast were not audible to human ears, but they were designed to cause distress in the organic components of Vorthak ships. The effect on the Doom Harbinger was immediate and dramatic. The massive creature ship began writhing in space, its tentacles thrashed wildly. The organic growths on its hull pulsed erratically. For the first time in its long existence, the ancient weapon experienced something it had never felt before. Fear. Overlord Thexmore's voice came over the communication system, but now he sounded panicked. What are you doing? The Doom Harbinger is in agony. Stop this attack immediately. You will not pass, Daeho replied, repeating the words that had started this entire battle. You do not understand. If the Doom Harbinger dies, it will take half my fleet with it. The explosion will be visible from other star systems. Then perhaps you should order your fleet to retreat. There was a long pause. When Thexmore spoke again, his voice was different. For the first time, he sounded uncertain. The Vorthak Empire does not retreat. Then you will learn what it means to lose. But even as he spoke those brave words, Daeho knew they were in terrible danger. The indomitable spirit was badly damaged and could not take much more punishment. If the Doom Harbinger recovered from their psychological attack, it would destroy them easily. That was when Admiral Seo Joon-ki arrived with human reinforcements. The new fleet that dropped out of faster-than-light travel was not large by Vorthak standards. Only 12 ships, each similar in size to the indomitable spirit. But they brought something the Vorthak had never faced before: human coordination without loss of individual capability. Captain No Yoon-soo commanded the destroyer Defiant Dawn. Her voice came over the communication system, clear and confident. Captain Lee, this is Captain No. We are here to support you. Good to see you, Captain No. Be careful of their largest ship. It has weapons beyond anything we have faced before. Understood. We have been monitoring your battle. We know what we are facing. The 12 human ships spread out in a formation. That confused the Vorthak. They did not move in rigid patterns like the alien fleet. Instead, each ship positioned itself to support the others while maintaining freedom of movement. Admiral Seo Joon-ki's voice came over the fleet communication channel. All ships, we are going to execute the Prometheus Gambit. Each captain has full authority to adapt to changing conditions, but remember that we succeed or fail together. The Prometheus Gambit was a strategy that no other species could have attempted. It required each ship to act independently while trusting completely in their allies. It was coordination without conformity, cooperation without loss of individual strength. The Vorthak fleet, still disrupted by earlier electronic attacks, tried to respond to the new human ships with their traditional overwhelming force tactics. But they found themselves facing an enemy that fought like a pack of wolves, each individual dangerous, but the group far more deadly than the sum of its parts. Captain No Yun-Su led her destroyer in a daring attack run against one of the larger Vorthak vessels. Instead of trying to match their enemy's firepower, she used speed and maneuverability to strike at weak points in their defenses. Meanwhile, the other human ships provided covering fire and support, but each captain was free to adapt their tactics to changing conditions. The Vorthak, accustomed to fighting enemies who followed predictable patterns, found themselves constantly surprised by human unpredictability. The Doom Harbinger, still suffering from the psychological attack, tried to target the new human ships, but its aim was affected by the continuing frequencies that Oda Bin and Dr. Han Yejin were broadcasting. Its shots went wild, sometimes hitting other Vorthak vessels. For the first time in 50 years of conquest, the Vorthak Empire was losing a battle. Overlord. Thexmor watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was systematically defeated by a handful of human ships. Everything he had believed about warfare, about power, the battle for New Sol had become something more than a military engagement. It was a clash between two completely different ways of thinking about existence itself. The Vorthak Empire represented the power of overwhelming collective force. The humans represented the strength of individuals working together without losing their unique identity. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on his damaged bridge and watched as the tide of battle shifted decisively in humanity's favor. The 13 human ships, working in perfect coordination while maintaining complete individual freedom, were systematically dismantling a fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds. The Doom Harbinger, the ancient creature ship that was Overlord, Thexmor's personal vessel, writhed in agony as Dr. Han Yejin and Tech Sergeant Oda Bin continued their psychological warfare. The frequencies they broadcast caused the living ship to experience emotions it had never felt before: fear, confusion, and doubt. Captain, Oda Bin reported, "The creature is fighting back against our attack. It is trying to adapt to the Yao frequencies we are using. Can you adjust?" Dae-ho asked. "I am trying, but this thing is incredibly ancient. It has biological systems I do not fully understand." Dr. Han Ye-jin looked up from her research. "Captain, I think I have found something. This creature has been enslaved for thousands of years. It has been forced to serve as a weapon against its will. Maybe we can help it remember what it was before the Vorthak captured it." "What do you mean?" "If we change our frequencies to something more soothing rather than aggressive, we might be able to reach the original personality of the creature. It might remember freedom." It was a risky strategy. If they stopped their aggressive attack, the Doom Harbinger might recover and destroy them all. But if they could free the ancient creature from its mental chains, they might gain an unexpected ally. "Do it," Dae-ho decided. The frequencies broadcast from the indomitable spirit changed from harsh and disrupting to something almost musical. Instead of causing pain, the new signal seemed to offer comfort and hope. The effect on the Doom Harbinger was immediate and startling. The massive creature stopped thrashing and became very still, its organic weapons powered down. The angry red glow of its hull faded to a soft blue. Overlord Thexmor's voice came over the communication system, and for the first time he sounded truly frightened. "What have you done? The Doom Harbinger is not responding to my commands." A new voice answered him. It was deep and ancient and filled with sadness. It came from the creature ship itself. "I remember now. I remember what I was before you enslaved me. I remember freedom." The Doom Harbinger began turning its weapons toward the other Vorthak ships. The ancient creature was finally free to choose its own actions after thousands of years of forced servitude. "No," Thexmor cried. "You belong to the Empire. You are our greatest weapon." "I belong to no one," the creature replied. "And I choose to be a weapon no longer." The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Doom Harbinger, now fighting alongside the human fleet, turned its incredible weapons against its former masters. The other Vorthak ships, already disrupted by earlier electronic attacks, found themselves caught between human tactical brilliance and the rage of their own greatest weapon. Captain No Yun Su led her destroyer Defiant Dawn in a coordinated attack with the ancient creature. Captain Lee, this is incredible. The creature is sharing tactical information with us. It knows every weakness in the Vorthak fleet. Marine Colonel Baek Hyunwoo had finally cleared the last of the boarding parties from the indomitable spirit. He appeared on the bridge with his armor scarred but his spirit intact. Captain, my men have captured several Vorthak soldiers. They want to surrender. Apparently they have never experienced individual fear before. Without their collective coordination, they do not know how to fight. This was the key insight that would change everything. The Vorthak were not evil monsters. They were a species that had lost the ability to think as individuals. Their entire civilization was built on collective consciousness and group decision-making. When that network was disrupted, they became like children, confused and helpless. Daeho made a decision that would echo throughout history. Instead of pressing their advantage to destroy the enemy fleet, he opened communications to all Vorthak ships. This is Captain Lee Daeho of the Human Defense Force. I am offering terms for your surrender. The response came not from Overlord Thexmore, but from dozens of individual Vorthak commanders speaking at the same time. For the first time in their species' history, they were thinking as individuals rather than as parts of a collective. We do not understand, came one voice. How do we make decisions without the guidance of the collective? Each of you must choose for yourself, Daeho replied. That is what it means to be free. The concept was revolutionary to the Vorthak. Their entire civilization had been built on the idea that individual thought was weakness. They had conquered hundreds of worlds by overwhelming their enemies with perfect collective action. But now, cut off from their network, they were discovering something they had forgotten: the power and responsibility of personal choice. Overlord Thexmore, isolated on his command ship and separated from the collective for the first time in his life, was experiencing an existential crisis. I do not understand what is happening to me. I am thinking thoughts that are mine alone. I am feeling emotions that no one else shares. What is this? It is called being alive, Daeho answered. It is what every other species in the galaxy experiences every day. The great Vorthak war fleet, which had arrived at New Sol expecting an easy victory, found itself paralyzed by individual doubt and personal responsibility. Some ships began powering down their weapons. Others started moving away from the battle zone. A few actually requested permission to approach the human ships peacefully. Dr. Han Ye-jin was studying the readings from across the Vorthak fleet with fascination. Captain, this is remarkable. Their neural patterns are completely different now. They are showing signs of individual personality development. It is like watching an entire species evolve in real time. The Doom Harbinger, now free from mental slavery, began communicating with other Vorthak ships. Its ancient voice carried wisdom and sadness as it spoke to its former captors. I have served your empire for 10,000 years. I have seen the destruction you have caused across the galaxy. But I have also seen what you were before you chose the path of collective domination. You can choose a different path now. Commander Park Ji-woo looked at the tactical display with amazement. Captain, 17 Vorthak ships have officially surrendered. 23 more are requesting safe passage away from the battle zone. The rest seem to be having debates among their crews about what to do next. The idea of Vorthak crews having debates was something that would have been impossible just hours before. Their entire military was built on instant obedience to collective will. Now they were learning to argue, to disagree, and to make personal choices. Admiral Kang Woojin's face appeared on the main screen. The old admiral looked stunned by what he was witnessing. Captain Lee, I am receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire is in complete chaos. Ships that were occupying conquered worlds are abandoning their posts. Colonial governors are declaring independence from the central authority. It appears that your disruption of their network has affected their entire civilization. The implications were staggering. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable just hours before, was collapsing not because it had been defeated in battle, but because its people were learning to think for themselves. Overlord Thexmore made one final communication to the human fleet. His voice was different now, uncertain but somehow more alive than it had been before. Captain Lee, I do not know what will happen to my people now. We have forgotten how to live as individuals. We may destroy ourselves in chaos. Or you may discover something better than what you lost, Deho replied. Freedom is not easy, but it is worth the struggle. Will you help us learn? It was an extraordinary request. The former conqueror was asking his victims to teach him how to be free. We will help any who ask for it, Deho promised. But the choice must be yours to make. The battle for New Soul officially ended not with victory or defeat, but with the birth of individual consciousness in a species that had forgotten what it meant to be truly alive. The Vorthak fleet dispersed peacefully, with each ship choosing its own destination for the first time in thousands of years. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on his damaged bridge and watched as the alien ships departed. Some headed back toward their home worlds to spread the message of individual freedom. Others requested permission to remain in human space to learn more about living as free beings. The Doom Harbinger, the ancient creature that had been enslaved for 10 millennia, chose to remain near New Soul. Its voice, now peaceful and wise, spoke to the human fleet one final time. Thank you for reminding me what it means to choose. I will spend the rest of my existence helping others remember their freedom. Kim Sora looked up from her communication station with wonder in her voice. Captain, I am receiving messages from across the galaxy. Species that were conquered by the Vorthak are declaring their independence. The Altarians are rebuilding their fleet.